Hello, this is Joe Watts, the alumni president of Enterprise and GPA Academy. We're so glad to be with you this evening. We've had an enjoyable time doing these interviews with the various students and staff of Enterprise Academy and Great Plains Academy. And we're just happy to have Pastor Tony Cash with us this evening. And thank you, Tony, for joining us.
You're welcome.
We're now, you're presently, what year did you graduate? We have in big bold letters underneath it in case you need a help with that.
Sir, I graduated in 1990.
Hey, I got it right. That makes me feel good. Anyway, and now, what are you doing? What do you do now as your profession?
Sure. Well, I currently work for the Arkansas-Louisiana Conference, and I carry a couple of hats. I work as the Plan Giving Trust Services Director. I work as the Association Secretary and Stewardship Director. I like to kid about that one. I said, you always remember what I do with Pastor Cash with my last name, likes to talk about God's way of handling money. And so I was born for that, I guess. But and a few other hats around the conferences. Sometimes that happens.
Well, in a small conference, that's the way it goes. I know when I was in Arkansas, Louisiana, I think I had 9 or 10 hats,
Yes,
and it's just the way it is to make it work. That's a great conference, though. Love
yes.
that conference, and it just had some good memories and good time there. So anyway, so can you tell us how you got from being a student at Enterprise Academy and then being at ARCLA? What happened between?
Well, it's been a very interesting road. I'd say it's had some twists and turns. I finished up at Enterprise, went to Union College, and spent 5 years there. 1 year as a student missionary, so 4 years, and had a nursing degree. So I graduated as a nurse, got my RN license, and worked about 8 years as a registered nurse. And I really felt that God was calling me into the ministry. So I spoke to my wife, and she was supportive of it. So we ended up back in Lincoln for a time pursuing ministry, and Kansas Nebraska Conference picked me up. And so then I started my ministry in Kansas, Nebraska, and some districts there. The Beatrice district was the first one. And then I had the privilege to serve back at Enterprise. When Great Plains Academy was there, I got to serve as the pastor there. Topeka, Kansas, had a district in Arkansas, Louisiana, before they brought me to the conference office.
Well, that's great. It's interesting how the Lord works, isn't it? How he brings us along, and it's interesting how you can look back and you can see how God has been leading every step of the way, and
Mm.
that's wonderful. That is great. Um, when you're on Academy campus, you had a job. What jobs did you do?
My junior year, I worked at Midco, and I worked in the X-ray bag department. Learned how to cut the bags and then put them on the wheel that turned and glued and all those things and folded them. Did that my junior year. My senior year, I had a couple of jobs. My main one was head RA in the guys' dorm. And so I got to work with Troy Beans, who was the boys' dean. He went by Coach as his name, and I got to go know him really well. He was a good friend. And so I did that mostly there my senior year.
Okay, well that's great. So did you only go 2 years?
I did. I was just there my junior and senior year.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. Um, did you have a favorite meal at the cafeteria, or did you just tolerate no the cafeteria food?
Well, frankly, actually, it was the other way around. It wasn't just tolerated. I enjoyed the food there. I had no complaints. I do remember, though, there was one particular thing that they would serve for breakfast. It was this little round sausage thing that they would steam and serve. But if it got cool, it hardened up pretty much like a hockey puck. And I can remember that one being something that I didn't always choose to eat. But other than that, really, the food was good. Gary Patterson was a great cook, and so he
Absolutely,
did a great job.
he's a great guy. We interviewed him. I don't know if you saw that one, but he's
Yes.
a great guy. He's a good friend of mine, so he's great. Uh, Classes, what classes did you like, or teachers that stood out?
You
You
know,
mentioned,
I saw that question on the list that we were going to be talking about a little bit, and frankly, there were a number of teachers that really impacted my life. I can remember Mr. Hill's physics class. I really enjoyed that because we did some really fun hands-on things like egg drops, mousetrap race cars, toothpick bridge, toothpick and glue, and I can remember that. So Mr. Hill really made science exciting. But probably the teacher that comes to mind that I did not give enough credit for when I was in high school, but I'll give credit now, is to Miss Ross. She was the English teacher, and she really worked hard to prepare us for college. And I remember personally complaining a little bit about, this was too hard for high school seniors. Why are we doing this college writing stuff? But I'll tell you what, when I got to college writing the next year, I got an A in the class, and it's because of her preparation that she did. She also helped our senior class put together a skit, and I still have the script to it.
oh my,
Rusty Merry Gentleman, and I was showing my kids just the other night, the lines that I had that were underlined and highlighted, that we got to be a part of, and she worked many hours above and beyond to help us get ready for that skit. And so I just remember a lot of things about that. Great experiences with all the teachers, but those stand out.
do the students write that script? Is that what you're telling me?
No, it was something that
No.
she had found and purchased, but we learned it, and it was a long production. It probably went 45 minutes to an hour, the whole thing, when we performed it. And so there was a lot of work behind the scenes,
That's,
and she was there coaching us the whole way.
yeah, good. You're talking about some good people. Uh,
Oh yeah.
they were there when I was there and pastoring, and they're just wonderful people. I didn't realize they had stayed that long, so that's interesting to hear that. Uh, did you have the privilege of going on tours?
So I was in the choir, and so we did tour. I remember going over to Kansas City one time with the choir group, and I think gymnastics group was with us. And a funny thing happened over there. We were at the academy in Kansas City, and our bus, somebody left the lights on the inside of the bus, and so it wore down the batteries. And so we got ready to leave that Saturday night, couldn't start the bus. So we were trying to figure out what to do. I remember there was a number of ideas tossed out, and I don't know who came up with the idea, but they said, "Hey, let's just put it in neutral and pop the clutch and see if we could start the bus." So I was one of the guys on the back of the bus that began pushing it down the hill. They popped the clutch, started it, but had not thought out the whole process that air brakes take time to fill up the air in the. And so there were no brakes. So yes, it started and it's rolling, but there was no way to stop it. So it went up over a curb and it ended up in a field. And anyway, it made a big impression on me that night.
Boy, I guess so. My goodness, sounds like a typical academy tour, uh,
Oh
especially of,
yes,
especially
kind
of
of
the.
make memories.
Yeah, right. That's for sure. Wow. I, I would have known that because I drive buses and drive semis. But, when you start that, oh yeah, you can push it and start it. But man, that air
We got
brake,
it started.
no brakes,
No brakes.
too much of a hill. And so that would be an experience on tour that you had. Oh my goodness. Uh, so what do you think? What's your best experience at Academy?
For me, it was being at Academy. And that sounds strange, but I was at that age where I was crosswise with my parents a bit. I was a teenager. I knew everything, they knew nothing. So I thought, and being at Academy gave me that opportunity to be independent in a safe environment. And that was so good for me. Once I got back into college up there at Union and got out of college, my parents got a whole lot smarter, I discovered. And
They do that.
I come to them now even for advice. But back then, I really needed that environment to grow where I was as a teenager. So it was the experience of being at Academy.
Yeah. I would agree wholeheartedly with that. I think that is a maturing thing that being at Academy and not having your folks just hoovering over you, and that's pretty good. Religious activities. I know you had some at Academy, and what did anything stand out? The
Well, I played guitar, so that was something I got to engage with. And so I remember the Vesper services, the Friday nights or the Saturday night Vespers, when we could gather around and sing some songs and kind of relax a little bit. So I enjoyed being involved with that. Um, Arnold Snell was our pastor my junior year, who then became our principal my senior year, and then we also had Doug Bing as our pastor. So they were great guys, and I really looked up to them as pastors and appreciated their involvement with the students.
Yeah, you know, Arnold Snell was my intern in Casper, Wyoming. So we go,
Oh,
go back
okay.
quite a ways. He's a good fellow. I was so thrilled that he followed me up there, followed me, and as a pastor, I thought we were in good hands, and that was terrific. Uh, what about when you pastored there? Was there how did you get involved with the religious experiences with Academy and
So I had the opportunity to be there when Great Plains Academy was operating, and the last year that the school was running, I taught the junior and senior Bible class. Now I'm not a qualified teacher in any means, but it sure was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. We did some different things. We took on the traditional curriculum there that they had in the book of Hebrews, had a good time with them on that, but then we deviated a little bit. We did some Dave Ramsey stuff with financial planning. Who knew that I would eventually end up in a conference doing stewardship stuff? But maybe
that was
God
a
was already
background?
going that direction. And one thing that the students did that was just outstanding is they put on an evangelistic series, and we set up a rotation so that the students got to try every aspect of doing an evangelistic series. So they would preach, they would do children's ministries, they ran the PA, they did hospitality. It was a rotating basis. So through the whole series, we would rotate just slightly. So every student had a chance to preach one or two of the lessons, to be part of the children's ministries for a couple nights, and so on. And that I felt like was great for the students. They did a wonderful job, and I was just proud of all of their efforts there.
That's fun. That is tremendous. I was thinking I shouldn't tell anything but about my experience, but Gordon Retzer was president when I was there pastoring, and I talked to him and I said I want to hold a series of meetings, but I don't want it just to be a plaything. I want to really hold a series of meetings with these kids, and so he
Mhm.
said rent a motel, space to have these meetings in, and so I did. Well, the first night, guess who shows up? President of the conference.
Oh.
And so we got to the end of it, and he looked at me and he said, "Did you place and plan in the budget to go out for ice cream after the evangelistic meetings?" And I said, "No." He said, "You have now. I want you to take the kids to ice cream every night after the evangelistic
Oh,
meetings." The kids didn't mind that, incidentally. They
no.
they appreciated that. They appreciated the conference president. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to tell me about your time at Enterprise or
Oh,
Great
I
Plains?
guess one other thing that was kind of fun for me to be a part of is I got to do photography both my junior year and senior year for yearbooks. In fact, I brought along my yearbook from the senior class. So flying high was our theme that year, and that was innocent. I remember being part of the picking of that. Had no idea the connotations that could have meant, but we meant nothing other than having fun, and it
Yeah,
was a good year, and it was a lot of fun to be part of the photography for the academy.
I'm working on a project, and that is, and I was going to mention that, so thank you for introducing it for me. But I'm going to scan all the yearbooks that we have in the Alumni Association and put them on our website so that people can have access to them. Uh, I
Nice.
that would be really a nice thing to do. And so I've got the annuals now, and getting ready to start the project of scanning them and getting them on, and then Virtual Atoms will put them on the website. So we think that'll be really something that the alumni will enjoy.
Oh yeah, very, very much.
So anyway, well, it's good to visit with you. I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to share that I haven't asked about, but if you have, you're welcome to share it, or else we'll kind of come to an end.
Just a couple of funny stories that I can think of that happened at Academy. Most of it was, again, young kids just not thinking things out. But, I'm glad for that environment to grow. I remember one time a window in the boys' dorm was broken inside by the stairwell. It was right by the drinking fountain on the first floor. But if you remember how the guys' dorm was designed, it had a stairwell kind of in the back that went down a bit and then went back up to either the guys' dean apartment or went on down further into the worship room and weight room. Well, the window right there by the drinking fountain had gotten broken, and we were going to take the glass out and put a new piece in, but it had the safety wire mesh going through the glass. So we're standing there going, how can we get this out? And we said, well, why don't we knock it out with something? And somebody came up with a piece of steel. I don't know if it came off of a shaft of some sort. It was just this round cylinder piece of steel. And they said, well, let's throw it through the window at the window and knock it out. Well, with the mesh there, we didn't envision it actually going all the way through, but that's exactly what happened. We threw it, and it went through the glass, down the stairs, and hit the glass door on the landing down below and broke that glass. And so now we had two pieces of glass that was broken, and I still remember that happening. We were quite scared that we'd be in a lot of trouble for that, but it was not on purpose.
That is
But
hilarious. That's
and then
hilarious.
another thing about as silly as that is me and another guy, we were working in the basement of the guy's dorm, and we were cleaning out one of the rooms in the basement to make it kind of a rec room. And there was some sheetrock and other things that we took out of those rooms down there. And we had loaded it up in a pickup. We pushed it out the back window, loaded it up in a pickup, and took it out to the landfill. And the landfill out there was just a big pit that had been dug out. And when we came, we were just supposed to put the stuff, throw it into the pit from the top. Well, I didn't want to unload that pickup. It looked like a lot of work, and there had to be an easier way to do it. So in my wisdom at 16 and 17, I said, well, why don't we try this? Let's take the pickup, kind of run it backwards towards the pit, and at the last minute, slam on the brake and see if we can get that stuff to slide off. Well, of course, I was scared because we were quite a ways up above that pit. And so when I slammed on the brakes, it all fell off right before the pit, and we had to still pick it all up and throw it in. Well, on the next load, the guy who was with me, he said, well, let's try it again. He says, maybe I can get a little closer. And I said, well, I'm too scared to ride with you. I'm going to stand out here and watch. And so he did. He rolled it back real fast towards the pit, slammed on the brakes, and just as he got to the edge of the cliff, and the back axle fell off into the pit. So the pickup is now sitting there on the edge of this cliff. And I thought for sure it was going to go into the landfill. Yeah. Well, what do you do now? We had no tow equipment or anything, but we saw a bulldozer off in the distance. So I hiked over to it. The guy said, yeah, I saw what you guys were doing. And he came over. He says, I don't want to be responsible for tearing up the pickup. But we said, do you have a chain or anything? He says, yes. And he says, but I don't want to be responsible if we tear it up. And we said, well, we don't want it to fall in the pit. So it's got to be better than that. So he chained up, pulled us out, and we went back to campus and never told anybody. So I'll admit, this is one of the first times that this story has been told about us almost falling into the landfill pit. And I guess that 30 years later or so, it's okay to tell these stories.
I think the statute of limitations is gone. So I don't think anybody.
But I mean, again, Academy gives you that opportunity to grow up a little bit. And I just appreciated that.
Learn some special things. Well, Tony, it's really been good to visit with you. And we know the Lord is blessing you and all that you're doing. And we thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for being a student and a pastor of Enterprise Academy. Lord bless you, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you.